What is up, Alphas? Today we're joined with somebody that you should already know by now, but in case you don't, or if you're new here, we've got Amber.
Hello.
Amber.
I live in Britain.
Yeah, we've got the British Amber. The Brit. Amber is one of our most successful alphas, one of our very first alphas. There's tons that we can learn from her, but we've got to cram it all into a 30-minute interview. So hopefully we're able to do that. The first thing that I do need to let you guys know, quick disclaimer, is that if you hear a fart sound, it's our sound isolation software, and it kind of makes it sound like Pixel, Amber's dog, is in the room dropping dookies under her table. So just ignore any fart sounds that you might hear. I promise they are completely artificial. Amber, do you want to tell the audience what you do, as if it's not obvious from your background?
Of course. So I started out by doing pet portraits as commissions for individuals. And I realized very quickly, once I had my own dog, that the breed merchandise that was available to the masses was rubbish. Either they didn't depict the breed correctly, or they just didn't have your breed full stop. So I create very specialized breed merchandise, such as cards, mugs, apparel, blankets, home decor, and everything for people who have very strange and weird breeds like I do. So I have a cardigan Welsh Corgi, and everything has Pembrokes on them. So what everybody says, oh, it's the Queen's Corgi. He is not a Queen's Corgi.
So, what's the weirdest dog breed? Like, off the top of your head?
So, there are quite a few weird dog breeds where you've, never heard of them whatsoever, but they still look like a dog. So they don't look weird until you hear their name, and then you kind of think that they're made up. But there are breeds like the 𝔸𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒.
That's not a dog.
And you have to when you're employed by me, Lucy had to learn very quickly how to spell it and how to say it. So 𝔸𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, and that is a Mexican hairless dog, and they look like Eddie the hyena from The Lion King.
Say it one more time.
𝔸𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒.
Gesundheit. So, Amber, I think that one thing that the alphas are going to want to hear about, I mean, first of all, just to get it out in the open, Amber's probably one of our most successful alphas in terms of being able to take what we advise and being able to apply it in a way that has shown growth very, very quickly. What has your starting point looked like from, well, this isn't your finish, but we'll say to today, you're finished, Amber?
So my starting point, I was obviously still doing commissions for people. I quit this year. So what I thought was going to be a huge growth, because I suddenly had loads of time to do loads more breeds and to do loads more project work. So, for example, we did an A to Z of different dog breeds and things like that. Actually, I have no time. And also, I'm not making as much profit as before. And that's because the profit on my portraits was like 10,000% or something ridiculous, because it is, to me, just a piece of paper. Whereas because I'm now printing more products to make the same amount, my profit margins have gone down. So when I think of my growth, I just think my drawings have got better because I'm drawing the things I want. I have more time. I don't feel as oh, I have to work tonight. Before I did feel like, oh, people are waiting for their commissions. They've been waiting for 6 months to a year for these drawings. Now, because people know it's project work, there's no real time limit except for seasonal things. So if I look back on what I was doing, I was making a lot of money very quickly, but the work that I had was just piling up and piling up and piling up. And I don't think my stress levels really equated to the amount of money that I was making. I did feel very panicked and chaotic most days, whereas now I feel a bit more relaxed, and I feel like I enjoy my job a bit more, but it also still has that element of, okay, what's next? What do I need to do next?
you've kind of paid for freedom. Like you've paid money for a little bit of extra freedom, and you also pay an employee, Lucy, who helps a lot, and that I think is also paying for freedom. And I think that there's a lot of people who are just like money, 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 focus on the money. I want to make more money. And there comes a point of diminishing return where you know that if at any time you wanted to make more money, you could open commissions back up. It's not something you're not going to forget how to draw people's dogs, you know.
But I also have things in the hopper, like projects that I'm like, okay, I don't actually have time to do this. But if I needed to, I could release them. Like, for example, I came up with hoodies that have people's names and each letter will represent a dog breed. And I put a very, very specific constraint on whether they would get released, and they still haven't got released. And I'm happy about that. Like, I'm not like, oh, no, we didn't reach the like limit, the reaction limit. I'm like, yes, take your time, please. So I have things that like there would be a moment where we reach the 250 like barrier and I can suddenly release them and it's a sudden influx of orders. But I'm happy that it's taking a bit more time because that means I get more things done in the background. Yeah.
And you know, I think that this is another thing that people, they just don't think about, that after a while you get tired of grinding. And Amber from a couple of years ago, who drew every single item that, you know, was purchased, versus Amber, who has switched to a print business model where you can take one portrait, print it several thousand times, sell it on fair for wholesale. I mean, because Amber doesn't just do Etsy. She's got her Etsy shop. She does fair. She does big events like crafts. She does, you know, her Etsy shop as well. But all of these things that started from her drawing things by hand, she's been able to do print on demand and be able to print things through a print supplier. She has some items that she ships from home. What is that process like? Because I think that a lot of people are interested in how to balance items that they're shipping from their home, but then the items that they, you know, actually have a print-on-demand service take care of for them.
It was pretty chaotic up until the point where Printful took over, and that was mainly because of the sync between Etsy and my website and Printful. Sending over the orders to someone else, like a third party who was printing my orders for me, it took so much time to input the address and to make sure that they knew exactly which breed to print. Whereas Printful have their print files, and they will just print it. And I got a bit panicky because there used to be a point where I had to turn manual approval on because they were printing faster than I can confirm with the client or the customer which breed they wanted on their items, because I wanted to do sort of a custom listing. So I did a custom blanket. I synced it from Printful to my website, and then I added a text box so that they could just type in which breed they wanted on the blanket. But Printful don't read that. They just print. And I had to turn manual orders on very quickly because I was realizing that there thousands of pounds worth of products were being shipped out to customers and I couldn't grab them before they were printed. But that does mean that their efficiency is like way more than what I could achieve. I knew that I could buy a mug press. I could buy a sublimation printer, but I don't have time to do the products I fulfill myself, let alone adding all of the mugs and all of the blankets and all of the things that I print elsewhere. And adding Lucy was a blessing and a curse at the same time. And I think it's because she lives so far away. If she was my next door neighbor or someone who lived down the street or even in the same town, even like 20 minutes away would be perfect. But she lives an hour away. So sometimes she has the product and I have the other half of the product that the customer's ordered. And we're just like, what do we do? Do I send it to you? Do you send it to me? Do we send both together and the customer receives 2 packages, but we've paid for twice the postage? Like, what do we do? So it is a bit of a juggling act. And this is why I definitely recommend that if you are doing a 10 product line, that you don't do it like me. Because I do it for every breed. I do it like a 15 to 20 item product line, but for every single breed. Because it's not fair on somebody to have one breed and another to not have theirs.
And how many breeds is that? How many breeds do you currently cater to?
So in the UK Kennel Club, there are 203 approved breeds. And I think I was on 158, number 158 of breeds I've drawn. That means that their shop is open. And I actually have like a big like song and dance when their shop is opened, because it means I've drawn something and they have now got a product available with that breed on. But there's also non-KC approved breeds. So there's like the things like the Cockapoos and the Sprockers and the Labradoodles and the Puggles. They don't really get done as much as the purebred merchandise because that is my specialism, but also they're not really recognizable. You can tell a Cockapoo, but not all Cockapoos look the same. Whereas a Bernese Mountain Dog, easy peasy. But there are also breeds within America that I've started drawing. So, for example, cropped and docked dogs are very popular over there, and they don't exist here. And I'm like, do I not do them because it's illegal here, and yet it's very illegal over there? And I have that like kind of like debate. I was like, what do I do? And I actually put a consent block on it. So people have to tick a box to say, I consent to seeing images that may be considered upsetting to me. I understand that cropped and docked is sometimes essential or something that comes in the breed standard due to a preference. So I accept to see them, or I do not consent. And then they get removed completely, like a parental guidance kind of thing, which was fun.
That's cool. That's like all the brands that have been doing the like Mother's Day and Father's Day opt-outs. Like there's a lot of cool ways that you can cater your brand, and it just kind of shows your brand personality a little bit, and that you care because you know that your audience. You care. Amber cares. That's Amber's slogan. Amber cares. No,
Amber cares.
Amber cares. You said that. You said that in my voice. Amber
I become
cares.
to like just parrot fashion. I become Starla.
Amber was able to come to the U.S. And hang out with us. She stayed here for a week.
I lived in your basement for 2 weeks.
Yeah, she was here. She was right here.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and it's such a weird thing because I think that people think that we've always been friends, but Amber, in reality, I didn't know her. Except when I opened Handmade Alpha Academy, we actually looked at our very first
so embarrassing.
Our very first enrollment period, and within 30 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, so embarrassing.
30 seconds of us opening the website for the first time, Amber was the first person to join Handmade Alpha Academy. She regrets it so much.
Oh God.
She hates it.
Don't do it, guys.
Amber, I think that people see growth and they don't look at the journey. They just see where you are now. And it's hard for them to really conceptualize what it means to live that growth period. What has happened since you joined HAA? Because, you posted in the student campus that screenshot of your storefront when you first started out. I'll put it on screen. It's a night and day difference, not just in your sales, but your branding, how you do things. It's so
just
different.
The overall feel of my shop. Like I'm so proud of every moment because whenever I updated it, whenever I rebranded it, I was so proud of it. But if I look back now, I'm like, oh God, what was I thinking? Even my slogan, like I never thought that I would have a slogan that actually I resonated with. And it wasn't because I came up with a slogan. It was just a coinable phrase that I said over and over and over again to the point where it just became my slogan. I didn't sit there and reverse engineer my brand and try and come up with keywords and phrases that I felt that should be my brand like slogan. It was just organic. And that's a very difficult thing to kind of hope to happen. But it did. And I see the screenshots as well of what I did in my first month. And I did 100 sales in my first 30 days of HAA. And that was my first sale in Etsy as well. I'd had my Etsy since 2014 and I never did anything in that shop. And then I did a sale. I literally opened and I'd already had an audience online anyway with my social media like presence. I had already curated kind of a little bunch of people that followed me. And I just said, I'm open on Etsy. I'm selling my stock. They are X amount of pounds and I only have a certain number of them. And I'm trying to clear out my stock before I come up with my new rebrand. So actually going through HAA, instead of going, I need a product, it was, I want to get rid of my old products. And I'm going to use that as my springboard for Etsy. And I did. Like within a month, I had 100 sales. But if you look in the first year, I make half of what I make now in a month. And I look back and I'm like, I was so proud of those moments. It wasn't like I look back and go, oh, wow, look at pity, poor poor baby Amber. It was like, I was really proud of those landmarks of my mountain.
You were astounded in your posts. Like I've got a couple screenshots from back then when I would screenshot like the testimonials, and you almost have grown out of, I don't want to say that you had, I don't want to say you had like imposter syndrome, but you didn't seem like you felt like it was real. You didn't seem like you felt like what you were seeing was like you thought someone was going to, jump out and say, surprise, it's all a joke. Like, I don't know. Your personality has changed.
I still do. Like, don't get me wrong, imposter syndrome will stay with you forever. Like, it's not something that will just fade out, but you will have a different level of that feeling. So now I know that I have a legitimate business. But at the same time, I still feel like somebody is going to come around the corner and say, that's a terrible example of the breed. And they do. They really do. So if I have an in-person show and I have all of my wares on display, I do have people come up to me and say, that's a really bad example. And I think it's because they think it's photos. Because how can you say that to somebody who's made something? But they come up to me and they say that's a really poor example of the breed that you're hoping to portray. And then I can immediately hit back at them with, okay, but can you provide a new model? If you think that this is a really poor example, can you do better? And they look at me like, yes, I can. And they go off and they bring back their entire bench of those dogs, like their friends, their mums, their nans, their aunties. Like they're like, this one's the sire to this one's the dam to this one's a half sister. They start bringing them out like, how do you want them posed? And because they're show dogs, they are like ready to pose in any way, shape or form. And I remember just waiting for that photo that would come in and it was just blurry and badly posed and sent, and it was about the same number of pixels I have in my house. And it just was a disaster every single time I knew I had commissions coming up, because they would always be really bad. Whereas these shows, they bring the dog, I know the dog is spectacular, and I get to take the photos.
You're a celebrity at these shows, though. Like you.
Yes. I rang a puppy, like I rang a breeder today because I'm looking for my second puppy. And I said, hi, my name is Amber Westwood, and I'm currently looking for a show puppy to show this year and also to hopefully breed. And she immediately went, are you Amber Marie? And I was like, oh. She went, I've seen your stuff online. Oh my goodness. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you. You can have pick of the litter. And I was like, oh God, what do I do here? Because Scott, Mr. Amber Marie calls me a Z-list celebrity because I am very well known in very certain circles of people. But if I was out on the red carpet, people would think that I got lost.
Let's be honest, Amber. If we were on the red carpet, we would be walking around like we're lost.
Yeah, we would be looking for like celebrities to go and chase. We wouldn't be the celebrities.
No, absolutely not. I would be the one who falls down. So also the good thing about having a brand like this and a recognizable one and a voice that is recognizable is that it is so easy for Lucy to replicate.
She can answer my emails as me and no one would know the difference. She also knows, like, there's a certain filter to be able to put onto my Instagram photos. It's so easy for her to know exactly what sort of thing to post and to create and to design with my drawings, because I have such a status, such a brand recognition, that it is easy to just go, oh, well, this makes sense. I didn't before. I really, really didn't.
It's consistent. It's cohesive. Everybody can look at your brand and know that it's you and sense that it's you and feel your personality shine through that brand. There's no mistaking your style. You could put, any dog sketch next to yours, and I feel like I could pick yours out immediately, even if it wasn't like signed. I would just know. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people lack, is they think that they can get by being scattered all over the place rather than specializing in one specific and very target audience catered industry. Because if you were still adding, portraits into your shop of all different owls and wolves and all different creatures, you're very good at drawing them. But if you were everything, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't be going to crafts. You wouldn't be at these big events. You wouldn't be known by dog breeders as, a breed. I would consider you a breed specialist, My
husband has said that, because he always puts things in sports terms, and he says that when somebody is commentating and they are the national commentator, they need to know a lot, but they know a little about a lot. When you go to the regionals or the very specialist sports specialists, they know a lot about a little. And I feel like I'm a generalist. Like I can pretty much guess the breed for 90%. And it's only the weird breeds that are very land racy, so they haven't quite made it over as a specific breed that is showing, that I struggle with. But I can pretty much pick it out. I can also tell between a male and a female, like just by look. I can tell the size of things. I can tell whether they're raw fed. Like, it becomes just your entire brain, because that is all you do morning, day, and night. It's quite a bad situation to be in when you're at a baby shower and everybody starts talking about their dogs and you go, don't say anything. Shut up. Don't say anything. To keep quiet. Don't say anything. Nobody wants to hear what you want to say. Shh. I'm just like in my head, because I know that nobody wants me to start talking about dogs, because then I don't stop.
But that's a good thing. It's good because your brand is who you are. It is an integral part of your personality, and it means that in everything that you do, you are authentic. It means that you are knowledgeable. It means that people have that trust and faith when they go to you, that you aren't just someone trying to make a quick buck, which, I think we're getting close to time. But I talked to you before we started the interview, and you said that between your website and Etsy and Fair and events,
in-person events,
wholesale, you've made around $500,000 over the last, how many years has it been? 5? 4?
So it's been 8 years, but the first 3 years, I don't think you could even really count.
Okay. So, and in that time, because we always have people say like, oh, this is impossible. It's impossible to do this. And obviously it's not impossible because you do it every day. But if you were to give the alphas, who are looking at you and saying like, how can I do this? Do you have any advice that you would give? And if you need more time to give this, we can stop this recording and start another one to make sure that you're able to.
Okay. So I would suggest that every idea that you have, instead of putting it into action, put it down on paper. Because you will have way too many ideas to ever come to fruition. And just because you could doesn't mean you should. And I have had thousands and thousands and thousands of silly, harebrained ideas that should have never made it to my shop and did. But I also have loads that should have instead. and I would have made it much faster and much easier had I strategized which plans and which things I did first. And that all comes down to planning. I didn't plan a lot. I just kind of jumped from paycheck to paycheck, just hoping for the next commission to come through. And I should have looked and gone, okay, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I doing them in the order that I'm doing? And why aren't I doing this? So now I have a card to give to people so that they have very specific poses for their dogs to be in. Because I was drawing anything and everything just because it was a new breed. And next to another, it looked ridiculous. But I didn't know that. Looking back, I go, oh my goodness, I can't have that in my shop. It's drawn really well, but it doesn't fit. And I wasted 8 hours on a portrait that is going to sit on my hard drive and never do anything. So yeah, use your time wisely by writing things down that you want to do. And in a month, if you still want to do it, then clearly you're onto a winner. But most of my ideas were very ADHD fueled and impulsive, and I need to do this, and I do it, and I would launch it immediately and then not make half of what I would have had I waited. So another thing that I would say is to buy in bulk as soon as you can, because that not only takes up your space and forces you to have to very much decide that you definitely want those things, because it's a bigger initial outlay and cost. So you think more about, like, do I actually want to make this thing that I'm making? And do I really think that 500 of these would sell? So yeah, go try and buy in bulk, and that would make your brain make that decision before it happens. Because if you're buying in tens, if they don't get used, they will end up in your craft cupboard. Guaranteed. I have lots in my craft cupboard. And I buy 500 at a time boxes of envelopes. And then I rented a garage. So one of the best things I ever did was write to my local council, who owns one of the garages next door to us, and is it available, because I never see anybody go into it. And for £21 a week or something, I get an entire room of extra space, which when you're thinking of like renting a retail space or an office space, like in a big complex, and you're thinking about $300 to $500 a month, if that. I don't even know whether your prices are the same, but that's about the price in England is in pounds.
I would assume. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer for space. So if you are concerned, like, I don't have room to be able to buy in bulk, try and cheat the system and come up with this crazy harebrained idea. And now we have what we call the boardroom, and we have live sale events in there. So we can get, because it's so close to our house, we can get Wi-Fi there. My husband put like electric in there, so I have lights. I have my dog's freezer in there. So everything has been kind of moved out to there, where I have an extra workspace, and it actually is supposed to keep this tidy, but it doesn't, because I still have so much stuff. But yeah, buy in bulk, because it makes your brain make that decision of, like, do I actually want this many? And then it forces you to sell that many, because you go, okay, I've bought 500. Now I have to sell that 500. And that works across the board on like product, supplies, equipment. Don't just buy the hobby one. Buy the professional one. Because guaranteed you will buy 5 of the hobby ones in the time that the mainstream proper one would outlast it 5-1. I bought so many printers over the years, so many, £200 a time, and they're rubbish. They're really, really bad. And they don't print correctly. They don't print the things that I want them to. So eventually I just went, I am buying myself a new printer. And I'm going to look at all the specifications, and I'm going to make sure that it is correct for what I need. And now I have this beast. And it has not failed me yet. So, yeah, not just buy the hobby equipment. Go and buy the big equipment, and set it as a goal. If you're worried about how much it costs, set that as your goal. And because it's a manageable amount, it's not like $5,000. If it's like 200 to 300 pounds, you can make that. I'm sure you can make that.
Absolutely.
And it gives you a target. It gives you something exciting.
Investing in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can break that target down as well. So instead of giving yourself an overall goal, so for example, I want to live debt-free. Okay, how are you going to do that? Okay, I'm going to set up a direct debit every week to pay off my credit card. Good. Okay, what's next? Because that will only chip away at one debt. Well, what else? What other debts have you got? Oh, I could sell the things in my house that I'm not using, so I can put them on FacePay for £5, £10, £15, just to clear a bit of space. Okay. What else? I'm going to have a look at suppliers and see whether I can kind of offset my costs a bit by seeing and shopping else around. Okay, good. You have to come up with little chunks that you can do to be able to pay off the big overall goal, rather than just setting yourself an insurmountable goal and then having absolutely no way of even achieving it because you don't know what you're going to do to achieve it.
All right, Amber. So we are towards the end of our interview. I think that we've talked about a lot, but something that we've been asking all alphas who have done the interview is if you were talking to somebody who wanted to join HAA, which it is open right now, like literally right now, guys, until June 24th when we close enrollments. If you were interested, or if you were talking to somebody who was interested in joining HAA, what would you tell them? Because we have a lot of people who are nervous about it. It's obviously a big investment, and we always tell people that if it's too big of an investment, then you're not ready for it, and it's okay to wait. But what would you tell somebody based on your experiences?
So, as we know, I was the first one to join.
Ever. Ever.
With 30 seconds, and that was with no
testimonials or anything.
No, there was no like backing of knowing that you were real people or that you weren't going to steal my money. And not only was there a 30-day money back guarantee, but there was also that thought in the back of my mind that no matter what, it's more knowledge. Even if it's the same rehashed knowledge that I had learned elsewhere, being taught in a different way by somebody who had already resonated with me in a learning style that I understood and that I worked well with from all your free content, I went, well, surely I'm going to understand things more, even if it's the same stuff. So it wasn't really too much of a decision for me. If anything, it was the financial thing rather than the, am I going to get anything out of this? But once I was within the first lesson, which is about fear, I am a very anxious person. Very, very. Me and Starla talk regularly about me. And I genuinely, I hide under my desk. If I don't think that somebody likes me, then it's like pathetic. It is, honestly. If I feel like I've upset someone, if I feel like I have stood up to somebody for myself, if I have had a bad review, if I have had any negativity or any criticism, I would go and hide under my desk and I would shake. And just that one lesson on fear and understanding not just business, but psychology really helped. And it made me aware that I wasn't the only one in the world that felt that. And now I have people who come up to me in the middle of shows and go, that's terrible. And I go, okay, how can I fix this? I have become a better person through HAA, not because of business, but because it teaches me how to be a good human. That sounds really cheesy, but it's true. Not only was the first lesson about fear, but there is also couples boot camp. And I will say this till the day I die, knowing that there are other couples out there that look like they are very well in tune with each other and are not necessarily all the time and haven't always had a perfect relationship, knowing that your couple goals also had issues, made me a better person. It made me a better wife. And I got married and bought a house whilst I was in the second year of HAA. So within the same week. Don't do that ever, 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 ever. Never do 2 life stages in the same week ever. But yeah, it made me feel like I was more in control of who I was, because it's not just teaching you, okay, here's how to make money. It's, okay, how do you psychologically put yourself in a position where other customers and other people and other peers look up to you as the authority? And I've never been authority in my life. I've never been the person to go to. I've never been the leading specialist. I have never been the voice of reason. And yet, weirdly, now I am. And you could be too for your industry. And you wouldn't even really remember how you got here. Like, why am I here? Like, I am talking to my best friend, who is 3,000 miles away, who I've ever actually met once. And I paid her £1,000 once. And now I'm like here. It's weird. But you have imposter syndrome forever. But me being here now, I know I am a better person because of HIA. And that's without the money that I made throughout. Because I feel like if I had my brand and I wasn't making as much money, and I still had all of the knowledge behind me, I would still be happy. Because I would be proud of what I had created. I look at my Etsy shop and I look at my website and I am just in awe of what I have done. And I just look at it every day and think, wow, this came from weird pixelated orange bokeh versions of my cards that were really bad. And there were owls and badgers and horses and chameleons in a single product line, which doesn't make sense at all. And like my brain went, oh, it's animals. It's animals, right? Animals go together. No, not always. So yeah, I feel like if I look back, if I had what I have now, but I didn't make half of the money, I would still be just as invested in HIA, and I would still be saying this testimonial.
Yeah, and the thing is, what we hear is a lot of people, they just assume that HAA is an Etsy crash course, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, here's how you set up your Etsy shop. Here's how you upload a photo. That's not what it is. If that's what we cover that
there
stuff.
There are loads of other people that already have those courses.
You can find that for free on YouTube. Yeah. Yes. Like that's free content that you can Google. But what we teach is a foundation of psychology that teaches you how to create a brand that is psychologically pleasing and how to turn yourself into a business owner who is ready for success and ready to take on the challenge of that success while you're building it. So you're not just getting slammed into it unprepared, but you're also not feeling like you're prepared or feeling prepared and not making any progress either. It's you have to be improving yourself while you improve your business. And really that's what it is. And that's why we have such astounding success rates of any of the other Etsy courses that I see out there. So,
and it's not just the success, the happiness within the group as well. Yeah. The alphas that are in the campus group, which is the private group for students only, is one of the most welcoming, happy groups ever. Compared to the other Etsy groups that are just miserable,
toxic,
awful. You never see anybody blaming Etsy. You never see anybody complaining that they haven't made any sales and it's because of XYZ. It's always people going, what can I do next? What is my next move? Guys, how do I niche down further? How do I find out my target customer is the one that I wrote about? How do I move on from this? I have this idea. Do you think this works? Everything is positive. And that in turn creates a more positive outlook for everybody else, because it's like that echo chamber of happy, an echo chamber of progress. And that's what makes HAA just such a warm environment to be in, because it doesn't matter that the person that I am most comfortable talking to and having a conversation with and being friends with is actually looking up to me and thinking, wow, she's made 100K and I have barely made one. We don't talk like that in HAA campus. We talk like, I think that you would be amazing if you did this. And they go, oh, I didn't think of that. And immediately go and start tinkering away. We try and bring the best out of each other. And not a single person I have seen is going, you're not allowed to sell greeting cards because I sell greeting cards. And this is my niche. Go away from my niche.
Yeah. I mean, and I can't speak on behalf of everybody else, because this is what you guys turned it into. You know, I'm the coach that's in there like cheerleading and answering questions. Yeah, like yay! But it's really the community that has driven what this is and created. Like I always say, the role of a leader is to build more leaders. And that's what I see is once they reach that point of success, they're not just sitting on golden thrones. They're turning around and they're reaching down and they're helping to pull other people up as well. And that's what makes it so powerful. But Amber, thanks so much for hanging out. This was great. And it's not like we don't ever talk. So, but we haven't been able to, it's been since November that we've done a video together when you were actually sitting right here. So guys,
yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Make sure that you go to handmadealphaacademy.com/VIP if you want to take advantage of our $1,000 discount. HAA will be closing for enrollment on June 24th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So,
and I'm in it.
Yeah, she's in it.
I'm in it.
You can talk to her. It's a great opportunity to get to know.
I get tagged a lot. And if anybody has tagged me and I haven't replied, it's usually because the answer that I want to give is not a 2-second whilst I'm falling asleep reply. So if I haven't replied to you, please tag me again, because I am more than happy to answer. It's just I don't want to give you a yes. And then leave.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. And if you have any questions, feel free to post those in the comments down below as well. We check those. We reply to those. Other than that, we will see you in our next interview.
Are we going to do our podcast bye-bye?
Yeah, let's do it together. Ready?
Bye-bye.